Apple Watch sizes, but there's a problem. If you listen to Apple, they suggest that the average person can wear any of these watch sizes. But that's simply not true. Is a bigger screen size always better? And why do some people stop using an Apple Watch only after a few months? My name is Saf, and in this video, I'm gonna do a real-world test and comparison of all the Apple Watch sizes to help you answer the question, which Apple Watch is right for you? If there's one chapter in this video I want you to see, it's this one. We're gonna talk about comfort. Comfort is the most important thing when it comes to choosing your smartwatch. If the watch isn't comfortable, you're unlikely to use it every day, and the more likely it is to sit on the bedside table. For the purposes of this video, I'm gonna assume the 40 and 41mm size is the small, the 44 and 45mm size is the medium, and then the 49mm Ultra is the big. Right, step one, you need to get a tape measure. And then we're gonna wrap it around our wrist to give ourselves our wrist measurement in millimeters. So mine says 155mm. According to Apple, if your wrist size is between 130 to 200mm, you should go for the small watch. And if your wrist size is between 140 to 245mm, you should go for the medium watch. And on their website, they don't actually include a size guide for the Ultra, but we can assume it's going to be similar to the medium, if not slightly more. That might give you an idea of which of these watch sizes you want to go for. But I have a second way of measuring your wrist to tell you which one of these watches you should go for. And that's by taking something called the lug-to-lug measurement. Now, the lug of the watch is the piece that connects the watch strap to the body of the watch. And you'll find this at the top of the watch and at the bottom of the watch. The idea is that when you put the watch on, you want the lug-to-lug measurement to take up no more than 90% of the width of your wrist. For example, if the watch is spilling over the edges of your wrist, it's likely too big for you. In my opinion, the second way of measuring is a much better way to go about seeing which watch fits your wrist the best. That said, the Apple Watch size is still a very personal and subjective choice. I have a relatively small wrist and I still go for the Apple Watch Ultra. I still use it every day and I have done for the last year. I've got used to it. If they made a smaller Apple Watch Ultra, I would probably take it, but I've still got used to the bigger size. Now, on the comfort part, something I do want to talk about is how with the bigger Apple Watches, because they are so big, they can sometimes catch on the cuffs of your sleeves. And this is especially noticeable when you're putting on a jacket or you're putting on a hoodie. I wish the Apple Watch was a little bit more seamless like the Oura Ring or a Whoop. So if that's something that's likely to bother you, just keep that in mind with the Apple Watch. Now, another area under comfort I want you to consider is the weight of the watch. The smaller Apple Watch is the lightest out of the three, and the Apple Watch Ultra, despite being the biggest, is made from titanium, so it is deceptively light. To be honest, I don't think there is that much in it, but if you do prefer a lighter watch, then I would say the smaller Apple Watch is noticeably lighter. Let's look at the dimensions of these watches. The smaller 41mm watch measures 41 by 35 by 10.7mm, and the medium Apple Watch measures 45 by 38 by 10.7mm, whereas the Apple Watch Ultra measures 49 by 44 by 14.4mm. As promised, here is a side-by-side comparison of the watches on my wrist, and you can get a sense for how they look and how they feel. Okay, next up, I want to talk about lifestyle and identity. Which Apple Watch should you choose based on those factors? Now, this isn't an easy question to answer. I've often thought about what does wearing an Apple Watch signal about me when I wear it? And the first thing that comes to mind is health. The Apple Watch Ultra is clearly marketed as the adventurous Apple Watch, the most extreme version, the one for the people who want to be as healthy as possible. If that's the kind of lifestyle that you lead, and perhaps you like to take holidays and go to places where you do that, then maybe the Apple Watch Ultra is the right watch for you. For everyone else, however, all of these Apple Watches more or less do similar things. You can use all of them to unlock your Mac or your iPhone. They're all available with a cellular version, which means you can leave the phone at home and go for a walk and still be connected. I really like this because it helps me to reduce my screen time on social media and doom scrolling. And finally, something to keep in mind on the lifestyle front is if you're purchasing an Apple Watch for the first time, you need to get used to using an Apple Watch. And that means charging the watch every day or every other day and actually using the apps and data that it collects. It can really help you to unlock some interesting insights on things that you never previously thought, such as your sleep or your diet. But it requires a bit of a mindset shift because chances are so far you've used your iPhone for everything. Next up, let's talk about screen size. The Apple Watch Series 9s come with 2000 nits of peak brightness, and the Apple Watch Ultra 2 comes with 3000 nits of peak brightness. To be honest, brightness doesn't really come in as a factor for me when choosing between these devices because I find them quite bright already. But what you might find interesting is a bigger screen always better? See, the difference in screen size between the smaller and medium Apple Watches is decent, but the amount of information that you can see at any one time is broadly very similar. You might get the occasional extra line in the text message or see slightly more of the UI, but you're not really missing out by going for a smaller size. I know when I speak to a lot of people, they feel like they're compromising on something by going for the smaller size, but really there's no compromise. It's about what watch fits them the best. They are designed to be exactly the same watches, but for different sizes and for different people. On the other hand, the Apple Watch Ultra has a much larger display and a much brighter display at that. When you look at it, you notice it straight away. That said, the Apple Watch is not designed to have the same experience as you might expect from an iPhone, With an iPhone, I'm watching videos, I'm going through Twitter, I'm going through Instagram, and it's nice to have the extra screen size. It's why I go for the Pro Max version rather than the Pro. But with an Apple Watch, you aren't browsing content in the same way. You aren't consuming content at all, and if any, it's usually through your AirPods when listening to an audiobook or a Spotify playlist offline. So that means the watch size is kind of arbitrary. You might have noticed some new wearables coming up on the market for the Oura Ring or the Whoop, and both of these wearables don't feature a screen at all. So while I find it very helpful that I can still access my text messages, my emails, and a bunch of other apps, I don't necessarily need the screen size to enable me to do it. Next up, let's talk about band choices. There are a ton of band choices out there, and I think it's really important that you think about the band just as much as you think about the watch. In my opinion, the most comfortable band to use is going to be a Velcro band, and the reason why is that you can perfectly adjust the strap so that it fits the size of your wrist. In contrast, when you have a strap with pre-punch holes in it, I sometimes find it's slightly too big or slightly too small. Now, silicone bands do come with their benefits. They are 100% waterproof. They're very quick to dry, and that makes them ideal for working out in or for going to the beach. And last but not least, there's loads of aesthetic straps out there as well. There's leather bands, there's metal bands, there's the Milanese loop, and all of these watch straps look very aesthetic. But from a functional point of view, I think that I'm happy with the choices that I've described to you already. Now, when it comes to battery life and features, there's a few things to keep in mind. As you most likely know already, the Apple Watch Ultra comes with a much bigger battery than the other Apple Watches. It can last for 2 days very comfortably, whereas I find the smaller medium Apple Watches only last for a day max, maybe a day and a half, but you don't want it to die halfway through the day, so it's a day. Either way, you have to think about how the smartwatches fit into your lifestyle, your day-to-day routine. Some people like to charge their watches overnight, and other people like me will charge it when they're in the shower and they've got like half an hour, an hour to get ready in the morning. Okay, so something to keep in mind for the Apple Watch Series 9s and the new Ultra is that they come with 32 gigabytes of onboard storage. The more storage you have on the Apple Watch, the more stuff you have available to download to it. Things like audiobooks and podcasts and music. Next up, let's talk about the action button on the Apple Watch Ultra. I think that this is really helpful for getting into a workout right away. Something I don't like about the older Apple Watches is how fiddly it can be to start a workout or to get to the app that you need. Having a shortcut with one button is definitely really helpful. When it comes to prices, the smallest Apple Watch is available for as little as £220. The medium Apple Watches are available for about £440, and the Apple Watch Ultra is available for £800. There are big differences in prices between these watches, and it's definitely something to keep in mind when you're thinking about size. You might find better deals on refurbished Apple Watches or if you go on the second-hand market. I have quite often found last year's models for Apple Watches on eBay for a really good price, and they still got lots of guarantees and warranties and all that kind of jazz. But only feel free to buy what you feel comfortable with. Like I said at the start of the video, the most important thing, in my opinion, is comfort when it comes to choosing the size of the Apple Watch. The more comfortable the watch is, the more likely you are to use it. And the best way to know which watch is the most comfortable is to try it in store. My recommendation is, if you're a tech head, need the latest and greatest, and you love health and fitness, or at least you want to identify that way, go for the Apple Watch Ultra. If you're someone that is kind of into health or wants to get into health, you already own an iPhone, and you'd quite like to see the data insights from an Apple Watch, then definitely go for the SE of the Series 9. And if you're someone that's on the fence and it's your first time going for a smartwatch, definitely try out the SE. If you get along with the SE, you can always upgrade later on down the line. Just a final thing to keep in mind is that most smartwatches and smart wearables nowadays use the same technology to measure your heart rate, to measure your VO2 max, etc, etc, etc. I think it's absolutely incredible that we can measure this data on such a small device, but I definitely take it with a pinch of salt when Apple will tell us that there are more advanced health features on some of the more premium models, when in actual fact, the sensors themselves are more or less the same, and it's the technology and software underneath it and the insights they're allowing you to pull that's different. Once you've decided which size Apple Watch you'd like to go for, you might be interested to know which apps to download. I'm not talking about like a list of the newest and shiniest apps, I'm talking about a list of the most essential apps that you can see yourself using every single day. And if that's a video you're interested in, I'll link it up above. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.